Today I'm talking to Raymond Bolduc, most recently presented the award for Innovative Marketing in Real Estate by the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. Raymond uses approaches to luxury property marketing, including, my personal favorite, his mega yacht property tours. He's a founding realtor of One Sotheby's International Realty, specializing in ultra-luxury waterfront residences and penthouses in Miami and the beaches. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. Today we've got Raymond Bolduc, who is in Miami, Florida, with One Sotheby's Realty. Raymond is one of the founding realtors of One Sotheby's International Realty. He's a specialist in ultra-luxury waterfront residences and penthouses in Miami and the beaches. He's a member of the prestigious Master Brokers Forum. He takes emotional equity in his properties, and I love that about you, Raymond, and in the representation of all of your clients. So one more thing, there's so much I could talk about you, but one more thing, I didn't know this until we started talking a week ago, but it's something as far as your way of doing business. You have the 2015 award for Innovative Marketing in Real Estate from the Miami Chamber of Commerce, which is just no surprise at all. But that tells us just a little bit about you. Fill in the blanks there about yourself and who you are, and what we want to know about you as a real estate agent, and a little about your personal life.
Sure. The award that you speak of is interesting because it takes me back to the beginnings of my real estate career. I tend to differentiate myself with being kind of an event-focused marketer. So I've always tried to do on a quarterly basis some type of a major social event with sponsors that are benefit type sponsors that involved. And the one that I won that award for was for the global meeting of Sotheby's in
and I remember that
in Miami.
Yep, that's where we met. Yep.
Right. And that one was special because we received the challenge from one of our companies saying that 2,000 agents would be here from 50 countries, and they challenged us to do something that would invite and welcome these 2,000 agents. It had nothing to do with the business of the meeting. And so what we did is I put together a team of 6 people. We raised $100,000. We incorporated, and we got 25 sponsors. And we ended up having 4 mega yachts and food and beverages and entertainment for 4 days, 2 days before and 2 days at the end of the event. And it turned out that our objective was to have face-to-face conversations with 500 people for a half hour. And that ended up being a simple task at the end because everyone was having champagne on the yacht. So it altered how people communicate.
Well, and you had photographers there, and you were able to use that event it sounds like the purpose was to entertain real estate agents coming into Miami. But you actually used that event and used your listing, one of your condo listings on the water, to generate interest and get agents through that listing, and used it as part of the event, which was genius.
Thank you. I also, as a result of that, I met you, and I also got a referral from another agent in the Atlanta office, and I'm still dealing with those clients. Their third transaction.
Oh, that's spectacular.
So you never know.
Exactly.
The event's driven gives you a broader reach.
It really does. It really does. So tell me this. I want to tap into really who you are and how you got into this business. And then we're going to have another interview that taps into these events and what you do and how so many agents want, our job is to network and lead generate and close leads and bring business. And that's such a great part of doing it. But tell us a little bit about, you've got such an extensive background in being so strategic and so outside of the box. At what point did you decide to, I know you've been a real estate agent for about, I think, is it 20 years?
Yes.
And what was it? What was that moment in time when you knew you were going to be a real estate agent? Did you make the decision? Did you fall into it? How did that transpire?
Well, when I got my master's degree in business from Northeastern University of Boston, I wrote my master's thesis on urban redevelopment and as a real estate project. And it's always been in the back of my mind throughout my career. I did multiple things prior to being a broker. And when I moved to Miami about 20 years ago, I was here for a major company in unrelated business, American Express, and the division was closed a year after I got here, and moved it to another location. So at that point, I was invited by a leading realtor to manage his business for him. And he was at Sotheby's, and that became my introduction to going back and to go into brokerage. And that was a great way to start because he was an innovator. Also did out of the box things.
Mm-hmm. So did you come into, so you say a broker, you mean a broker as in you ran an office, or you a broker as in you started out as an agent doing real estate deals and managing obviously this guy's team?
I was actually managing him. He was like the top producer.
Right. That's great. That was the
first point.
And how many years did you do that?
The opportunity to have like a bird's eye view of how things work. He was one of the first people to break the $5 million and $10 million ranges, 15, 20 years ago.
Wow. And this is in price points in Miami?
That was then.
Right, exactly. But you're talking about sales prices in Miami, Florida. He was the first to break those price points. Yeah. That's fantastic. What was the biggest thing you learned from him, working with him, before you stepped out and did it on your own?
I'll take risks regularly.
That's reassuring.
Yeah, always ask for the order. I had personal experience doing that in my early days, and getting up the strength to approach a cold call on houses was something I thought was critical to my success. And that was one of the first ones. I was just getting to know a neighborhood, and I went. I found this house that I just was totally amazed by the architecture of it,
mm-hmm.
and I had no knowledge of anything about it because I was out just scouting. So I decided to walk up and knock on the door. I knocked on the door. The owner actually came to the door. I said that I thought that the home was. I fell in love with the home from the outside, and I would really like the opportunity to sell it if that ever became an option. And he said, "Well, it actually is an option, but my wife is going to be the broker." And I said, "Well, that doesn't bother me either. I'd still like to play a role in it."
Mm-hmm.
What happened is it turned out that I ended up having a listing and selling the house 6 months later, and it goes back to the thing that you were repeating from my bio about I take emotional equity in my properties, and that I kind of treat it like it's mine, and
which is so important
from the beginning, and it kind of resonates, and it resonates with sellers and buyers as well. So,
it really does. Well, I think our industry.
Tagline is, I take emotional equity in homes.
Well, I love that. And it's so true. I think in our business, it's easy to get caught up in the number of transactions and volume, and we get ranked, and there's a lot of focus on how much we sell to keep us. And I always look at it as an inspiration, but it commonly becomes a competition, and it's easy to forget as real estate agents that our clients are people, and not only are and that we're not just selling houses, we're not just doing deals, we're selling their home. That's the most important. Mine is I always talk about your home. It truly is the foundation and the heart of where everything starts. And if we can remember that in representing our clients, it makes the biggest difference. It's a common theme that real estate agents get frustrated that their clients don't understand. You've got to first seek to understand seek to understand them before we can expect them to understand us. So that's huge. And go ahead.
And bridging that gap of understanding people, that's again where events have been very helpful to me. 2 years ago, for that award that I won, a PR person came to me and said we were looking for sponsors for a new restaurant that was opening. I really didn't have the funds to be the sponsor, but I said, well, let me check this out. So I went and found a bank that would be a sponsor, and I came back and said, okay, I will, along with this bank, I will sponsor the opening. And it turned out there were 2,000 people at the opening.
That's brilliant.
And the contribution that I brought was so well received. The owner of the restaurant says, when I sell my house, I'm going to call you. And I just sold his house 6 months ago to Floyd Mayweather. It was a brand new house that he was building, but we would have known, it was getting to know people, and I had the access to a resource, which was a financial institution that became a sponsor. So, sometimes you have to be creative outside the box, and there was nothing known that was going to occur from this, except that I was able to do it. And so sometimes being out of the box goes back to taking some risks. And I think that's what most people get really comfortable when they stop taking risks.
Exactly. Well, it's so comforting to me to hear to always take risks, because I find myself tending to do that. And I'm just glad to hear it's a good thing. And, something I'd love to ask you in this business, there's a very assumed, I think everyone comes into this, or most people, you're very strategic, so you may not have been the same, but most people come into this business assuming that it's signs in the yard, your friends hire you, lots of people, and you're just going to get your license and talk to people and sell houses. And the big aha for everybody is you get in the business, and that's just not it. I mean, you and yourself and the way you do business is a big aha. But my question for you is, even as big a thinker as you are, I would love to know for you, from 25 years ago getting into the business through the years now, what has been one of your biggest ahas and biggest discoveries about our business and about being a realtor or a broker?
The number one aha is the basics matter. I wasn't sure how to approach the luxury market in Miami Beach. It's always been hot. It's always been highly priced. So as a new person in the business, it's hard to imagine, the multi-million-dollar homes, having control of those. So what I did was, for my first year, I think I volunteered to do, in the first 2 years, I think I volunteered to do 200 open houses. And
that might be a record.
Well, I don't know.
It's 52. There's 52 weeks in a year. That was 4 a year, 4 a week, 4 open houses a week.
Right. And the conclusion of it was, I became a broker's broker, and became known as, you're associated with the houses represent. So I was careful about the houses that I offered to do open houses at. And they happen to be the higher priced ones. So the aha part of it came later, when people kind of considered me to be a top producing person, because I had been on these open houses for 2 years, and it basically became a support for my ability to actually get those listings for myself. And now I get those listings, by referral. So
right.
It was a breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
It was hard work. It was hard work. Some of these were empty lots on the water, and so it wasn't
empty. So you were holding empty lots on the water, open for open houses.
Right.
That's great. So because anybody not in the business and even in the business might imagine you standing out in the middle of a piece of blank land, standing there waiting for people to drive by.
With my car and my son.
I love it, and that's what you did.
Another aha moment is, it only takes one. If you're there for 3 hours and only one person comes by and it's the right person, it's not about 50. It's about the one that gives you a referral, knows you for the next time, and so all that occurs just by doing the basics.
Mm-hmm. Well, in our business, there's so many transactions a year, and the market share that we need isn't that big. Everybody thinks this is such a competitive business, and not that it isn't. But if you can just hone in and realize it's just a few. You don't need the world to love you. You just need the few, and you get your few really strong supporters, and it's so much more valuable than 1,000 people following you on Twitter. So, in who those followers are is important. You can buy 1,000. You can buy 1,000 people. You can buy 1,000 names, but you can't buy a relationship.
Right, and when you add up the sales price of the houses in the luxury market, you don't have to sell too many houses to have a very successful year. So what
exactly,
you have to make sure that they're all good experiences for everyone involved. And so that goes back to basics again. You just have to overproduce as much as you can on those that you have, because you're only competing for those 5 to 10 deals that are significant for you, not the thousands or hundreds of deals that are out there.
And that's the big difference between, we talk about, there's luxury real estate, and then there's the average price point in Atlanta, for example, depending on the market, ranges anywhere from $140,000 to $240,000. And in that price point, they're an agent with that average price point, you're really looking at more of systems and assembly line marketing, and then you tap into the high-end market, and it's just, you're dealing with a lot less people, but you have to have a much stronger knowledge of the market and even ability to deal with people and understand they're coming in with a whole new set of expectations on what is going to be delivered to them as opposed to what somebody else is. And in that, I'd love to ask you, when I met you, we were in Miami, Florida, and we were at an event the event that you won the award for. I was on a yacht, and you gave Neil Heary and I, who was actually where I think that's where you got your referral from. But you gave us a ride to the and you gave us a ride to your listing, to the condo listing, and it was just an amazing experience. Even though there were hundreds of people there, I felt special. One person being there. What are some examples of how you make sure you give, in addition to your events, you give your clients that experience so that you're delivering what they need before they know they need it, the same way you have one set of expectations walking into a Motel 6 and another set walking into a Ritz-Carlton.
In that particular case, and with most events, it's the memorability of the event.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is separated from any other event, and in that particular one, we had yacht tours of mansions, and the thing that makes it interesting is, guess what? The architects designed those homes to be seen from the water. From the street, you can't even see most of the homes from the water,
which was amazing.
So that was things that those are memories that people have of those boat rides. To
be able to see it whenever,
some other experiences, they were out there for an hour and they saw 50 mansions, and so creating the memory. You got to feed the dream.
Create the memory, create experience. People remember experiences. They don't remember. It's not when people look back, they think about not the things they had so much as the experiences that they had. And you're giving the people those experiences. And what do you do for your clients to give them those experiences? Do you do it through the events, or what do you do when you're working with them one-on-one, going through the process?
I brand myself along with the properties. So my property marketing is generally begins with a drone video now that we have them, and the quality of the materials to start with becomes the basics, and then the relationship. You have to create relationships with people in the luxury market that are really strong, because there's so much competition, regardless of whether people are not supposed to be competing when it's listed. It does happen, so you always have to be prepared and to be known by the client as the right person, because there's so much competition because the prices are so high in the market.
It's so true.
Our average sale for our Sotheby's was 1.5 million. It's the average agent sale in one Sotheby's. So we're the market leaders in terms of general. So the competition is just really fierce.
Exactly. So I would love to know, you've had, first, what are you, I don't know which way I want to ask it, so I'll ask it both ways. Tell us one or both. What are you most proud of as being a broker, and what is your greatest success as a broker? Or if those may be one and the same.
It's kind of the same thing. I had the opportunity to represent a house that ended up being the highest sale in 2008 in Miami. It was back then it was 20 million. Now it's 60 million.
Wow!
At that point, it was at a time when the market was not strong. It was a very weak market.
Yeah, 2008 was a painful year for most of us.
Mm-hmm. What happened was it took a long time to sell it. So it took a lot of patience and a lot of financial funds to support it. In fact, that was where one of my other big events, which was a Gatsby event for 500 people at this mansion, and I didn't. The actual sale was not related to that event, but it was it allowed me during the time it was difficult to close things. It allowed me to expose myself to 500 buyers in a very sophisticated black tie affair. So it had other ramifications in the market when I did it. So
well, and
that was probably my.
And when you do something like that, I think you tell me what you think about this, because you've got a lot more experience than I do, but I've done a few, and I've been inspired by what you've done, is that even if the buyer doesn't walk through the door at the event, which, by the way, like you said, it just takes one, that event is branding the property. That event is getting people through the door who know other people who would potentially buy it, and creating a buzz and an excitement around the property to motivate the buyers looking at it to buy it. On that specific property, how long did it take to sell?
3.5 years.
And what were the conversations and the emotions that you dealt with those sellers as you went through the process, and how did you keep them? What were the things you learned about understanding your client and helping them, understand that it takes a while, and being patient? Because as real estate agents, we often, as we all know, a house goes on the market, everybody's excited, it's going to sell next week, and 2 years later, in the multi-million-dollar market, it's still on the market. We had it's still for sale. We had a property that just sold in Swanee, which is the suburbs of Atlanta, full price, $8.8 million, but it did take 5.5 years to sell. So what is part of it? How do you handle that? And what is your interaction with the clients to keep the faith, help them understand, and keep patience in the midst of going through that process?
First and foremost is to get as much help as you can from support, and Sotheby's has that, especially one side. Accessing the global network of Sotheby's was something that happened. We made sure that we were forcing every issue, getting it in front of eyes in other markets, feeder markets like Atlanta, New York, Chicago, and South America. So we actually did more marketing, even though it was a slow market. And it turns out that a Russian bought it, and it had been seen on the internet and the World Wide Web. That's where the buyer came from. So it forced us as a team, myself and Sotheby's, to be involved, and to get additional resources and use the full depth of the resources of the company as well.
And what were the conversations with this? Yeah. And I think in that market, the seller probably understood the market they were in, but were there conversations that you had with the seller? Because it's certainly an emotional process for them to go through, as we all know as well.
Yeah, he was the builder, so it was a new mansion.
Wow, a $20 million spec.
Mansion on the water and 200 feet of water. So he built it. So he already had, he had spent 3 years building it. So for him, this was a long process. So staying close to the client is the key there.
Exactly. Staying close to the client is so important, and remembering that they are just another transaction to put on our resume, but they're people that were helping and need us and look out to us. And it makes me think of experiences I've had. Every time I'm somebody's client, it reminds me of this, is that when I'm a client and if I have frustrations or I'm going through things, I'm reaching out to the person I hired to help me and to be a mentor to me, not to be defensive. And I think as real estate agents, a lot of real estate agents tend to get defensive, and that's the last thing our clients are looking for. They're not hiring us to be defensive when we get worried. They're hiring us to give us that assurance and market knowledge and expectation of what's going to happen and where we're going and what are our problems, but what are our solutions. And you clearly have more than most real estate agents have.
And by the way, not to be the horse, but the event that I held for that property was halfway through the thing, so it had an impact on the sellers. I mean, the fact that I pulled this together with, I had 50 people involved and 10 sponsors. And, it was beyond normal. So sometimes it would seem that was the worst time to do that, but it turned out to be the best time to do it because I needed to support the marketing for them.
That's incredible.
Keep the listing. That was a long listing.
So I would love to know what, other than maybe that $20 million listing, what in business has been a challenge that you've gone through, possibly even a mistake you've made or something you've done, and what did you get from that? Because as we all know, we learn more from our failures than we do our successes. Is there an example you want to give us of that you have gone through and you came out on the other side of that so much stronger, and what was the outcome?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
That $20 million sale is a big one already. That's an incredible challenge that you went through, and you came out of the end of that with a record sale.
Yeah, that's the one that was it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. So in the end, we had 3 people negotiating on it. It became a normal sale, but getting there patience was the whole thing, and doing everything possibly that I could do to support open houses. Nothing slowed down, nothing changed except for more intensity.
Wow. And
then of course the spin from it lasted years. So you can't live on things for years. But it's those things, those kind of sales are career changers and game changers.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's always in my targeting. It's always part of my targeting is to identify those and have a special property that gets attention, like the one that I sold to Floyd Mayweather 6 months ago. That was a very quick sale, and there wasn't much negotiations because he was not going to be there. And we wanted to close it. And it turns out, by accepting that price, we became the only sale on that street in a 12-month period. So it was significant.
That's incredible. So you are
some more listing requests as a result of that one. So.
Wow, exactly.
And if I would have negotiated too hard and we didn't get it, then nothing. There would be no story to tell there.
And that's such an important lesson to remember in our business. And I think sometimes in our business, we need to, the moral on that I'm getting, and you tell me, is let's stay out of our own way in this. Give our clients what they want.
Right. But the interesting thing was the flexibility. This year I had 3 clients that were extremely flexible in a very difficult market and closed quickly, and a successful sale sometimes isn't one that someone overpays for. It's in a tough market. You're the one that gets something sold. So you got to remember to be to keep flexibility in the eyes of your sellers, because right now in this it's still a tough market here. The sellers are now, we have a predominance of overpriced listings. So there's work to be done with all sellers to get them to be more flexible, and deals will happen.
And do you have any advice on that? I mean, I think a big key would be listening to them and understanding them first. But do you have any stories you can tell us on situations? I think that's the biggest challenge in our industry, especially as we get into the higher price points. We've got very educated, smart clients who need to understand that we understand the market and how we communicate to them the importance of things like being flexible so that we can get the job done. Do you have any examples of stories that you could give us? There's probably so many.
The story I have related to that is that I just got a listing back for the second time, and patience allowed me to get it back again. It was overpriced, and I told them when they're ready, call me back, and so they called back a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to relist the thing at a lower price. So sometimes you're never. It's always hard to walk away from the listing. Sometimes it ends up being the right thing to do because they remember.
Exactly.
Sell was price. And
exactly.
So
did you have the list? Go ahead.
That happens. You think you lost everything.
Yeah.
They call back.
So did you have the listing and then another agent got it and you got it back, or did you have it? And
Right.
Wow, and you don't hear about that happening very often.
No. And so the first thing I said was, and guess what? We're still not ready to put it on the market. So I brought in a landscape architect, and we redid the landscaping, and got rid of 2 or 3 trees, and made it look fresh and beautiful again. And they were very open to do that. So now we're just about ready to launch it now.
That's exciting. Well, please let me know about it, because Mark, what's that? I was going to say, let me know about it, because I know our market feeds your market and vice versa, and I could get it out in front of everybody. So I want to wrap this up. We've really gotten to know you, and we're going to have another interview with you talking more in depth about events.
Okay.
Some of the things, the things that we've gotten out of this are always ask for the order, keep taking risks. I just love that one. My husband might not like that one because that's what I do, but it pays off every time. Understanding people, remember the basics matter. It starts with the basics. 4 open houses a week, you got to do what it takes. You're associated with the houses that you represent. That's huge, really. That's a message into niche marketing, and you've got to focus a niche and know that it's your branding. And a big aha is it only takes one. It's not 20 people that you know or 100 people that you know. It's the few people that really are going to bring and deliver value, because in our business, it's more about depth and value than it is the broad big. We're not in the it's kind of like we said, the Motel 6 versus the Ritz-Carlton. So, or the Walmart versus the Neiman Marcus, or even better than that. And to keep flexibility in the eye of your sellers. And patience. Patience and integrity. That's the one thing I always say about you is innovation and integrity are the 2 words I have that would explain, that I would use to describe you, Raymond. Tell us a little bit about your, just a little bit about your future plans, and then what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this interview?
My future plans, basically, I have my tenure with Sotheby's has been 10 years, and this one Sotheby's is going to be 8 years old. So I was the COO of the previous Sotheby's, and they were acquired by one Sotheby's. So 10 years with the brand. It was I feel really comfortable with the brand, and I'm hoping to take a more bigger role in the company as well, and to focus on waterfront properties. Because now with that tenure, the market is much more attractive to me.
Exactly. It's a great time. And what's the one thing that you would want that you're hoping our listeners take away from this interview as far as your advice, your insight, what you have to share with the world about being a real estate agent and being one that's outside of the box and successful and as amazing as you are?
The three things that kind of guide me are to take risks regularly. And from my father, I take several things, characteristics that he gave me, and that was discipline, honor, and kindness. And those three principles kind of make me who I am as a realtor. And specifically for the future, fulfilling the dreams of my clients. So I'm always thinking of this is one of the 4 or 5 homes they're going to have. Maybe I made it happen. So
wow.
I'm looking to fulfill the dream of my clients.
Fulfilling dreams of anyone is so satisfying. And when you said fulfilling the dreams of my client, I really just got the biggest smile on my face, because it's just such a wonderful thing to be able to do for people. Well, Raymond, leave us with your contact information, and the best way to reach you.
Pardon?
Let us know your phone number and website and the best way to reach you.
Oh, sure. My phone number is 305-975-4232. Anytime, 24 hours a day. And I do get calls.
24 hours a day? Exactly.
My email is Bolduc, BOLDUC, at onesir.net, ONESIR.net. And my website is RaymondBolduc.com.
Great. Raymond, thank you so much. It's been truly an honor having you.